For 22 years, I denied a part of myself, a part that I wanted to disassociate with. But we'll get back to that in a later moment. Tonight, we will be speaking of something that I hold very dear to my heart. Tonight, we will be speaking about immigration and poverty, and how poverty feeds into that cycle and how it returns. I learned something this summer. It's something that Albert Einstein once taught, that the world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but rather because of those who look on and choose to do nothing. So what does that even mean? It means that when we're looking at an issue, if we don't take in all of the different aspects and we just choose to look on, then we contribute to that evil. Now, immigration is like the scab. Poverty is like a bleeding artery, and the wall is like trying to put a Band-Aid on it. It just doesn't work. So tonight, we're going to put a story and a life behind the number so that you can begin to understand what that picture looks like. I would ask you all, though, to consider the following 3 questions. What if you had been dealt this hand in life? How would you want to be addressed? And what choices would you make to sustain and secure the stability of your children and your family's life? This is what that picture looks like. It looks like my children fighting to want to be doctors, lawyers, teachers, and contributing members to a society. But because education isn't taught to them in a way where they can elevate themselves and their parents are too busy working, they fall behind in school. It looks like a 3-year-old orphan having to drop out of kindergarten because there was no safety net for him. But that didn't stop him from continuing forward. And eventually, he found opportunity for his family in Southern California. It looks like a psychologist, a teacher, a curriculum builder, only being paid $9.40 a day, working insatiable hours to fight illiteracy, and then after that, going to a different job to sustain their family. It looks like a fisherman, my friend Antonio in the picture, whom I met off the beaten path in Progreso, working for 13 hours every night to sell his catch for about $7. And he doesn't go work for those fishing companies because, according to the Mexican government, you only have to be paid $4.18 as minimum wage. And that doesn't have a number of hours to it. Now, according to the Institute of Geography and Data of Mexico, we know that an individual needs at least $17.38 to survive. Then that begins to look like families being separated, because as the parents have to go out to work to sustain a home and put food on the table, the children are left to fend for themselves. And then it looks like illiteracy when those same children are asked to help in the efforts to feed their family. It looks like an economy that is not working for those who need it. And it looks like an informal economy in which taxes aren't paid. So the infrastructure of the cities and the towns and educational programs that would maintain an environment of opportunity are cut or diminished. That picture looks like rich, corrupt, and inefficient politicians who launder money into their pockets and see riches that not even this audience can even think of, while the country's most vulnerable go uneducated and hungry to bed. It looks like a government that's willing to censor the political mind at any cost, sending the army to kill teachers and students protesting for reform. That was the 1968 shootings in Mexico City. And that message of "you can't make a difference" still lingers in their minds. It looks like the 43 missing students whose bodies have not been found yet. But according to police reports, the police actually gave them over to drug and gang members who then killed and burned the body so badly that DNA testing can't be done. You see, I see these wounds of a society that isn't healing. And that bleeding artery will continue to bleed, and people will continue to flee. For 22 years of my life, I denied this part of me. I bet you, if you look at me, you would never guess that for a majority of my adolescence, I was an illegal immigrant. And it took me 22 years to admit that to myself. I was afraid that I wouldn't see my sisters another day, that my parents wouldn't come home, and then later I was told that I would never receive a college education. And over a turn of events, when finally, after years and years of waiting, everything worked out. And when I finally had the opportunity to go back, I came to understand something so beautiful. For every 1,000 people hacking away at the leaves of evil, there's one hacking away at the roots. 2 years ago, in August, I was vacationing in the Yucatan Peninsula, wondering at the marvels of Mexico. And after that, we went to eat. And a little boy came up to me for the first time, and I experienced something so sad. He came up to me and handed me a Jaguar and asked me to buy it from him. But I had just bought in many at the resort, so I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't." So we turned him away, but as I observed him and I saw a community of young men, I came to realize that this could actually be a live example of child exploitation, something I had never been exposed to. And my heart broke as I had to get up and leave, and the questions came to mind. How can so much suffering and so much recreation coexist? While people just entertain themselves to death, so much suffering exists in the lives of these children. And what if, by a turn of events, that had been my child? Now, I don't know exactly what led their parents to do the choices that they had to survive, but I knew that day that I promised myself that I would go back and do something. The world is a dangerous place, not because of men who do evil, but rather because of those who look on and do nothing. The beautiful thing about the work that I'm doing and the projects that I'm starting and the research that I do is that there's poverty alleviation, there's so many gaps. And everyone in this room who can hear the sound of my voice has an innate gift given to you to help solve that missing puzzle piece. We can all put something in, whether we may think it's small or big, with our skill sets. But there are 3 things that we can begin to do if you do want to help and you don't know where to get started. 1, we can start by changing the narrative along with immigration, recognizing that the reason it even began is because of corrupt governments, a lack of opportunity, the inability to sustain the security and stability of your family that would lead a person or a father and a mother to protect their child. and flee. The second thing is that we need to begin to realize that it is people just like you and I that have left the greatest impact on our humans' history. It began with a caring, it began with courage, and a disposition to act. And no matter how small you think your efforts or your influence may be, through collaboration, we're allowed to create change. The last thing that you can begin to change your mind about is that you can't just throw money at these issues of poverty alleviation. And although it's a very important and vital fact to the process, more importantly is you giving of your skill sets and your knowledge and the things that you learn in your professions to help organizations fight those things. And through that reaching, we can actually make an impact. Now, I believe in a world where we don't see people for what country they were born in. I believe that every child deserves a shot at life, regardless of where that child took their first breath. And through collaboration, we can create the impossible and refine the standard. But it's up to us, and it's up to you to act. And I would invite you to join me. Thank you.